Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Robert, fact checker and science blogger and helping people who are scared of many things. And this time is if you're worried about the doomsday clock and the announcement that's just coming up by atomic scientists. And this is not really a clock, especially with autistic people who are not very good at working with metaphor, but this is a metaphor. It's like saying you could eat a horse. So there's no realistic possibility of any human being eating a horse, even if it was something that we did. It's far too big to even fit into someone's stomach. It's just a metaphor. And this is like that as well. It's not a clock, the time is not a literal time, and it's not a literal doomsday. So one way, my summary of it, it's a media event based upon a symbolic clock with the aim of averting a wide range of possible disasters through political change. So they're trying to influence politicians with this symbolism. And the general public and our effect on politicians. However, I think they're not really setting about it the right way. It's so negative the way it's done. It's negative framing. And so I had this idea of a positively framed clock, or at least doing that along with the negatively framed one, the sprouts for future growth, and looking at how solar panel prices have reduced so much, battery prices fallen so much, that the projection for 2100 is now going all the way down to 1.1 degrees centigrade. Now, these things are going to come up, or these sorts of things are going to come up, but they always have it as just like it's less negative rather than saying these are actually positively framing things. So anyway, I expect them to move it back. From the 100 seconds, it's sure to go back. It's just a question of how far back it goes. Because there have been many positive changes since then, according to the way that they evaluate it, which has no scientific basis to it. Although they are scientists, they don't have a calculation method, they don't have a scientific method of calculating the actual time. But the things they take into account include climate change now, which they never used to, which makes it hard to compare with previous announcements. But we've had huge progress in climate change in the last year. We've had many countries now are either committing or committed to zero emissions by 2050 or 2060 in the case of China. And Biden, with the new president, is bringing the United States back into the Paris Agreement. But it's not just Biden, it's countries around the world. There's South Korea, there's Japan, there's the EU, and there's many countries have now strongly committed to 2050 for zero emissions. On nuclear weapons, then we do have Biden, who is the way they do this is not particularly left or right wing, but the things they evaluate it by are things that led them to reduce it, partly because of Trump, because of his very volatile decision making, the aggressive way that he talked to Kim Jong-un, for instance, and withdrawing from the Iran deal and withdrawing from many nuclear deals. And sometimes it's actually worked. I think with North Korea it worked, although it was very nerve-wracking. But these are according to the way that they evaluate it. Then he made things much more difficult. They removed various safeguards that they saw as meaning that they would reduce the time in their symbolic clock. So they can go both ways. So this time they're bound to increase the time. And that's why it's not a clock. Clocks don't run backwards, but this does. It's a symbol, it's not a clock. And so it's rather eccentric. It includes things like deep fakes, and they included last time. And deep fakes are just like Photoshop, they really haven't had a significant effect. They thought it would have an enormous effect on world politics in this last year, and it didn't. Not at all. It's just people now know that you've got to be careful about videos, just like you're careful about photographs. And they've hardly figured at all deep fakes in the last year, except as an amusing, interesting thing that you can do. So this is about how we're now headed for 2.1 degrees C, and that's with the if you take into account what China has committed to as well, is in the process of committing to a statement of intent. And if you look carefully from 2015, then many of these countries have overachieved on their 2015 pledges already. So when they say they're going to go for zero emissions by 2050, this is credible, because they've already overachieved on their previous pledge for 2015. And then I was talking about with Biden's administration, then that he is going to be doing many things they will see as being more stabilizing for nuclear disarmament. He's going to he's going to renew the New START, and Moscow have already said they want to renew it as well. That was the last remaining treaty on nuclear weapons, which Trump was going to let expire, and Biden is going to renew it. So they will see that as a positive development for sure. And he wants to rejoin the Iran deal. That's much more of a challenge. And again, with North Korea, he's sure to want to build on what Trump did. He's not someone to just say, oh, Trump did that, so I'm going to throw it out. There's that bit of paper that Trump and Kim Jong-un signed, and that's a good basis for going forward. And there's no way that Biden is going to tear that up. That is just not the way he works. He looks at what was good about the previous administration. He's going to keep that and move forward. So generally, everything is looking like expected to move back. But remember, it's not a literal clock at all. And it's not about doomsday. And it's not the time. And it moving back will show that it's not a clock. The real question is, how far back will they go? I think there's no doubt they're going to move it back. They may well bring in new things. Who knows? They might decide they're going to include pandemics in it. Since we're in the middle of a pandemic. And then, who knows, it's just impossible. If they include pandemics, then how do we compare it with the time last year when they didn't include pandemics? So it's going to be really, it's quite a confusing thing, and it's really quite unpredictable because they keep changing the rules. Every year they've got a different set of rules as to how they actually define the time. So in the last few years, I think every year it's been a different set of rules. So it's really, and there's no method to it, no published method as how you can calculate the time from things that are going on. But it is not, they made it very clear, it's not about anything happening in the immediate situation. For instance, during the Cuban crisis, that had no effect on the doomsday clock, because the clock was not about individual events like that. So that again, I mean, why they call it a clock when it's not about individual events? It really is quite bizarre, especially if you have a very literal mind, like autistic people do. Then it's literally none of the things that are in the title. It's not doomsday and it's not a clock. So anyway, I hope that helps. I will upload this and I will do another article after the announcement of some sort about what they actually say. This is just to help you if you're getting scared before the announcement.